Okay, so let's start. So thorax is actually Latin for chest. That's literally what it means. And the thorax is the upper part of the trunk of the body. So this whole thing is the trunk. And when we talk about the thorax, we consider the upper part, this part over here. So this is the thorax, and this part over here is the abdomen. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about the shape. Well, when we first see the thorax just by itself, it looks like a truncated cone. So this is our cone. Truncated means when you cut off the top. Now, what do we have left now? Just this. And if you look in the front, we have a little bit of a snip here as well. So we have something like this. So there's our thorax, a truncated cone with a wedge-shaped opening at the front. And as you can see, it's narrower at the top, and then it gets wider at the bottom. So it consists of a cage that houses the thoracic viscera in its cavity, especially the heart and the lungs. So like I told you before, we would have the heart over here. We will be discussing the heart later. And the lungs on the sides. And other thoracic contents that we will be talking about soon. And it contains a superior aperture, and it contains an inferior aperture. So the diaphragm is basically raised within the thorax. So you would be able to see, you wouldn't be able to see. The diaphragm is basically attached to the inside of these costal cartilages. So the diaphragm is raised with convexity in the thoracic cavity. So here is a picture of our thorax from the side. The diaphragm is raised like this and attached inside like this. As you can see, technically the thorax boundary should have been here. But since the diaphragm is pushed up because of the contents of the abdomen, as we will be discussing later on, those contents push the diaphragm to be further up into the cavity. So we say that the diaphragm is raised with convexity in the thoracic cavity. So now let's look at the transverse sections. Okay, so when we talk about the shape of the thorax in transverse section, we can see that the shape of the thorax in the adult human being is kidney-shaped. So you can see right here the shape of the thorax. This is a kidney over here. Okay. Now, when we look at the shape in infants, it's more circular, as you can see. So it's more like this. In the adult, you can see this feature that the anteroposterior diameter is smaller compared to the transverse diameter. As you can see, this is longer. And in the infant, it's almost the same. It's more circular. Now, when we look at the transverse section of quadrupeds. So quadrupeds means those animals that walk on four legs. So these animals, their transverse section is shaped like an oval. So the anteroposterior diameter is much greater than the left-right diameter, as you can see over here. This is the transverse section of a horse, and this is of an adult human being. Okay, so let's move on to the overview of the thoracic wall.